Hi, welcome to Tea with Mali. Today we have Marcus Johnson, international singing sensation, right here local to us in the Washington, D.C. area. He is an entrepreneur. He has his own wine brand now. He is also the founder of Flo Brands, LLC, among many other projects. He's also a community advocate, and we're going to talk about all of that today. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we're having tea today, and we're also going to talk wine, and we're also going to talk passion and purpose and music and love and life. And, you know, I was sharing this with you prior to the cameras rolling and us being on this set. It's amazing to be in a place where you've dreamed you would meet somebody that you thought was truly a celebrity, truly an inspiration. And I'm just in awe of the fact that we're sitting in the same room together, because I've watched you for so many years do what you love. And this is what the show is all about, and this is what the inspiration is for, to help other people out there who are just even thinking that they have some unique gift. Because we all have it, but we don't always know it or claim it. And you're living proof of that. So let's start by sharing music. It's a love of yours. It's in your soul. Did you come with it? Did you move into it? What was that experience like?
Well, there are many different influences as it relates to music. My mother played classical piano in the house. It was her kind of cool down. As we were growing up, she'd go in or come in from work, put on her gown. That was her routine. And then go sit on the piano while something was cooking. So I was introduced to Mozart and Brahms and things like that early. She was very proficient at reading music as well. When I was, as a 6-year-old, forced to take piano lessons, I absolutely hated it. Had nothing but disdain for the piano. The idea of coming in from school, not being able to go out and play with my friends. I knew that studying was not an option, but the fact that when it was playtime that I had to go then and practice piano, it was not my first choice. As I began to grow, I always loved music. When I would visit my father, we would listen to Stevie Wonder, Miles Davis, Earth, Wind & Fire, and my father would, he noticed early that I was an Earth, Wind & Fire fan, so when I was about 7, he took me to an Earth, Wind & Fire concert.
That's really cool.
The old Capitol Center in Washington, D.C., which is no longer here.
Right.
And I was absolutely amazed. I mean, the big sound system, the fact that people were flying through the air, the pyrotechnics, where, you know, there were explosions and a bunch of synthesizer sounds. And these were all the songs that I loved anyway. So, you know,
were 7.
7 or 8, you know, right after Let's Groove Tonight came, or Let's Groove is the name of the song, came out. So I may have been a little bit older than that, thinking about it now, maybe 9. But it was something of an incredible experience. But my father, being someone who spent a lot of time with me and spoke to me a lot, told me, well, look, if you want to do music, well, then you need to play piano. And because the piano player is generally the one that, you know, is the band leader. So I had already had these conversations about success and being a winner, loser, or survivor. And since I was going to be the band leader of anything that I did, whether it was a business or whether it was being in an actual band, I decided, you know, piano would be my thing. But it really wasn't until 8th, 9th grade when I fell in love, where I said, I'm going to write that girl a song. And at the same time, the big go-go scene was happening in DC, that I really put time into, you know, listening, you know, teaching myself, you know, looking over people's shoulders on how to play music.
Dedication to your practice. So at that point, at that age that you just spoke of, was that really when it was implanted in you that it had to take practice? It wasn't just something that you could just hang out and do a hobby? Like, did you have more intention at that point?
I did. I mean, there was a definite goal. And I think that that's one of the things, even in education, that's missing right now. My goal was to either, one, be in a band, or, you know, write this song to this, you know, girl who I thought was cute that I was like, yo, look, you write the little note, will you go with me? Yes, no, check the box, hand it off. I don't know what they do now with these daggone smartphones. I'm sure, I hope nothing worse, but you know, a bunch of crazy things like that. But there was definite intention there, and I really started playing well at 13 or 14, or like at the end of my 13s, going into 14, and getting into the 9th grade. And I transferred from Springbrook High School in Maryland to Blair High School,
yes.
and they had an award-winning jazz ensemble under the direction of Ray Harry. And that's when it just kind of took off. I loved jazz. I took a solo in my my sophomore year, and won an award that I didn't even know existed, which was, the all-county soloist for best jazz piano. And then in the junior year, I got and made it into the all-county jazz ensemble and performed for the first time at Blues Alley. And by my senior year, I was in the all-county jazz band, the all-state jazz band, and was ranked pretty highly as it relates to jazz pianists around the country. I had my limitations, but I had my own groove because most of my teaching had been on my own in a fusion of like hip-hop grooves, go-go grooves growing up in DC, church, and the jazz that I was learning in school. So it was more rhythmic than it was fluid.
Okay.
And that's when I went to the University of Miami and started studying jazz piano and music engineering and technology down there.
Do you remember what it felt like to get that first award?
I do. Number one, I was super shocked, and it came with a plaque and everything else like that. I think I still have those. My mother was cleaning out some things for my brother's wedding reception about a month and a half ago. She's like, you have like boxes full of awards over here. And I was like, yeah, I do. She's like, well, I'll save them for you, but, just I wanted you to know. She's like, everything from music to winning academic awards to these other things. So that one was a surprise, and I didn't know it existed. But it was kind of it's a kind of a pattern that started to develop in my life where I put myself in situations where I could get things that I didn't know, but once I knew that I could get them, I started to search for other things to get. And that has led to all the things that you see as I continue to grow the company.
Now, did you ever imagine, even in high school, as you were moving on from high school into college, that you would be where you are today with your music?
Actually, I'm upset that I'm not further.
Really?
I absolutely saw myself exactly doing what I'm doing. And I often tell people, I guess the politically correct answer would be, well, no, I didn't see that. If you don't have a vision, then you'll never get there. And, if you don't have a vision, any way will get you there. And that's what's happening with these kids nowadays and adults. Nobody has a vision. They try to live to what society says that they should do. They don't follow their passion. And because they don't follow their passion, they can't put it down in a plan. They don't know how to execute it. And then they don't know how to reflect upon it. So for me, I used to sit and dream all the time about being on stages bigger than the ones that I'm on right now. I'm very thankful for the ones that I have now. I love Blues Alley. I'm playing Capitol Jazz Fest this year. I love playing in front of 20,000 people as well. We just secured the Syracuse Wine and Jazz Fest. I love playing in front of tens of thousands of people. No problem there. And then promoting product. But, do I want to be like a Miles Davis one day who's playing in front of 50,000 people at a stadium, or to have my own events? Yes. There's so much more to come. But I absolutely saw, something similar to this as a young kid.
That's fantastic. And I will say this, it's amazing though, because you have these big dreams and you're not where you want to be, which is great because you're always looking to strive towards something else. And yet you have achieved so much that many never even have implanted in their head that this was possible. We're talking about all kinds of reasons. We're talking about social reasons. We're talking about economic reasons. We're talking about all the brilliant creatives, brilliant minds, not even creatives, but just anyone who has an idea, who has gifts and talents, to not believe in themselves, which leads me to the next question. With mentorship, did you have any besides your parents? I mean, what kept you believing that the dream was possible and kept you going? Was it internal or external?
I mean, I think it's a mixture of both. And I think that the early interaction that I had with my mother and my father were very important. I grew up in an entrepreneurial household. I grew up looking at books with my father's face on it, with my father and mother's name in it. You know, I grew up in a big house in the suburbs once we got there, you know, and then I've also seen the other side of the tracks with, you know, Fifth and P, and growing up where most of the friends that I grew up with, you know, are dead, and the other side of DC. So it's like, you had mentorship from friends that, you know, honestly, some people I know who were drug dealers, you know, like, go home. You're going to do something with your life. You don't need to be out here. Well, I want to hang out with you. Go home. No, you're not allowed. That, I think it was the movie Good Will Hunting, where Ben Affleck said that to, you know, the Matt Damon's character, like, I hope I wake up one day and you're not here. Like, I knock on your door and you don't answer. And it happens in the inner city community as well, where it's like, go do your thing, man. This isn't fun. This isn't glamorous. And if you really break it down, it's a minimum wage job that is drug dealing, except for a couple of people. It's a hard life. So I had pressure from them to succeed. I was teasing one of my friends that I reconnected with after 25 years, thank you, Facebook, from high school. And we were telling some other friends of mine that I was voted most likely to succeed. And I crack up at that. But I was voted most likely to succeed. I had Ray Harry, I had Phil Gaines, I had Mr. Barry in junior high school, I had Steve Terrison, I had Ron Kearns from the All County Jazz Band. You have people like Steve Silverman in Montgomery County, Ike Leggett, who was running NAACP and on the Montgomery County Council. I could go on and on and on. You know, Reverend Harkins, I have mentors now. Bob Johnson was, I mean, when I got into business and having the opportunity to do business with him, I mean, I've been in a couple of business deals, and to take what I've dealt with and to put it in the context, one of my best teachers in the world was Bob Johnson. And he let me fall completely on my face and was like, "Are you ready to stand up?" And I mean, that is what is absolutely needed in these communities. And the communities that are most successful, that stick together, or I should say, are the ones that stick together regardless of all the external or personal stuff. It's the ones that say, okay, you fell on your face. What did you learn? Did you learn it this time? And if you did, then they continue to support you. That has been something that I've been blessed to experience, because I think at certain levels, when you get to the multi-million-dollar level and the centimillionaire level, 100 million and more, I think that there is a dearth of mentors and role models that have actual experience managing that type of money and those type of operations. And you need more of a mentorship than you do somebody trying to come in and whoop your butt regularly. And I think that is, if we can transform even things like affirmative action in that way into educating, you know, some of the people who are now getting to that level with great ideas on how to actually manage their money, manage time with their family, manage time with themselves, dream a little bit, maybe, why don't you? Then I think that, you know, those are going to be the people that get us out of these problems.
You know, I bring this up for a point because I know you do a lot of community work. You really believe in that. You give back a lot. And we're going to go definitely into that, some of the causes you believe in. But I think that, you know, as we evolve as business owners, as creatives, it's really important that the lessons that we learn, some of the challenges, some of the failures that we have had to experience, to gift that, because we know the pain of it. Mm-hmm. And so that's a part of coaching, which I know you do brilliantly. And so we're going to go all into that when it comes to the business side of what you do. What I do want to ask more on is the music piece. How has your music evolved through the years? I mean, in 10 years, there's like 15 albums out, something like that, and you have another one coming up. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. But I know that, how do you keep things fresh? Euro jazz, like, what is that?
Yeah, well, Eurojazz is a project or a concept of music that I put together with the Parisian DJ that I met while on tour. His name is Young Pulse, and one of his associates connected us and made sure that we, came together when I got back to the United States. He came over in 2010 and interned with me and stayed with me for 2 years. Within the first 4 months of him being here, we had our first record out, Flow Chill Volume 2. And then just last October, we put out another record that was JURIS, Eiffel Tower. I love house music, club music, lounge music, and I wanted to make sure that I could, put music out that way. And when you have control of a label, or if you have the ability to actually get the music out there, you can do whatever you want to do. Right. So we put those projects together. We performed at clubs and still do, where he's the DJ, I have my keyboard, and the people are out there, whether we're doing a dubstep groove or whether we're doing something that's more in the jazzy clubhouse kind of vibe. Many late nights at Utopia down on U Street, that kind of thing. But that was just something where it's kind of, again, I would say it demonstrates the pattern where if you show me a way and I get it done, I'm going to the next level. Wow. I'm going to go to the next level. I'm going to keep pushing the envelope. And I think that there are times where I ask myself, like, is this a disease? Is it a disorder? And I think that there are times where entrepreneurs in general and dreamers, executing dreamers, are, they really have to take a step back and reflect. And like, you have to give your brain a chance to break. Because if not, you cannot go to sleep. You don't feel well the next morning. You're not eating well, things like that. Because it's like, well, what's next? What's next? What's next? So you have to kind of,
great point.
And which gets back to structure. So musically, since I know you want to stay there, musically, I have not practiced much in the last 10 years. However, I have performed so much with so many incredible musicians that I have been able to listen and open my ears up in ways that sitting behind a piano and practicing, it wouldn't work. Now, the other thing that we have now is YouTube. And I am not above going on YouTube, not only for music, but my golf swing. But, it's like going on there and putting in scale, soloing over C major. You can find it there. We live in a day and age where technology can be used as such a tool, but we choose in a lot of places to use it as a crutch. So I'm the guy who's like, I don't know how to do this with Excel, boom, I'm on YouTube. Well, I don't know how to do it. There is no manual, but Google does. So those kind of things have helped me. In essence, my band director came to a concert that I had last week, and he's like, man, you're getting really good. And it's an idea that you say, how has it evolved? I'm just better. The more you play, the more you do it, the more things become second nature, the more you are able to speak in your own voice, the more comfortable you are with your vocabulary. Because there's some people who might have limited vocabulary, but so long as they know how to communicate effectively, that's really the essence of what goes down. And there are a lot of people who speak large words, and it's like the argument between one type of jazz and the other. You can speak all that other stuff you want to, but if you're not communicating with somebody, and if somebody doesn't really understand what you're doing, then you might want to ask yourself, really, what are you doing? You can do that in the basement. If you want to make this your business, you better have a communicative type of relationship going on with somebody on the other side of the bandstand. Those are the people who are paying your bills. It is for them. And that is one of the biggest keys to my success in music, is the fact that, I play for the audience. It is a release for me, but to hear them and know that I am in the therapy business, to know that I'm making somebody feel better out there makes me feel better here. And I'm a giver. I'm reading this new book, Give and Take. I'm a giver. I love doing that type of thing. So.
Wow. You brought up some great points. One, you kept it simple. I'm just better. We think of this evolution of where we want to be from where we are, and we think of the massive amount of action that has to happen over time to get there, and then we say it'll never happen, and we stop dreaming. Mm-hmm. And yet you're coming down and you're just saying, I'm just practice every day, I just get better, I learn, I go on YouTube, I'm just constantly moving, I'm constantly allowing my mind and my heart to expand. And I think that's a powerful point to make. Secondly, you mentioned that you had your friend from Paris that came here, your DJ friend, your partner, he jumped into a 2-year experience. I hear a lot of, especially creative entrepreneurs, I'm going to give it a try. And if it doesn't work, I'm just going to quit and try something else. Sometimes it takes more than just a 1-time, 2-time, 3-time effort. Have you found that to be true in all of the endeavors that have worked and not worked?
Of course. I mean, look, I tell people, I was just fresh out of law school and I spoke out of junior high school probably about 15 years ago. And I had had limited success to that point in time. And I told the students, look, I'm a billionaire. My money's just taking its time finding me. And, it's like, I am so not where I'm going to be. And if you read all the good books, things like Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, he says, things don't really start popping until you're 38, 39. Now you have these anomalies, 7, almost 8 billion people, you have like 400, right? I mean, I wish we could show the size of a speck on a chart just to say, these are the people who dropped out of Stanford, Harvard, and meaning Bill Gates. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and it takes dedication. And I'll tell you this, the analogy with lifting weights is when you stop, your muscle mass starts going away, you start getting flabby again. As soon as you start up, it starts hurting. There's no gain without the pain, especially the same thing with sports. You have to practice. When you lose your timing with your receivers, that's why it's important for like RG3 this year to be out there now practicing with Deshaun to make sure that he understands what's going on, because it's repetition. That is his speed. I know that he's going here, so I can close my eyes almost and get the ball to him. So when your eyes are open and somebody's in your face, you can get it. These are all analogous, and people they think, well, I'm in music, I need to know how to read music. No, you need to know how, if you want to make this business, you need to know how to do business. You have to know how to do business better. Right. And that's a key component to everyone's success in everything that they do. So this is extremely hard. Yeah. It takes the alchemist, Paulo Coelho.
Yes.
Is failure, in the forward of the book is the most important part of the book, the 4 reasons why people fail. Third reason is because there's the fear of failure. And he says, people often ask me, is failure necessary? And Paulo says, whether it's necessary or not, it is inevitable. And the key to success is falling down 7 times and getting up 8. Right. So if you make it on your first time, great. If you make it on your 3rd time, great. If you make it on your 999th time, it means that you had to get up after the 998th failure. And know that what's in your heart and in your passion and in your soul, that's it. But you have to believe that. And that's what a lot of people don't do. It's like somebody puts here's not a cup of tea, but a nice warm cup of discouragement for you. You know what I mean? Well, why would you do that? You failed here, you failed here, you failed here, but I know I can do it. There's reason, there's a line over reason. But if it's what you're meant to do, why don't you do it? And that's when most people give up.
I absolutely agree. And that leads me to the next point. We talked about the evolution of your music. Now we're going to talk about the evolution of you. You focused so many years on your music, on your craft, and then just with all the knowledge, all of the experiences, all the failures, all the times you tried something and it didn't work, or tested a new sound or a new partnership, it just one after the other. Some wonderful things happen, some not so great things happen, and now you're literally teaching and coaching and training to do new projects. So let's talk about the business side of you. You talked about being a creative, but an executive one, right? Someone who's going to actually take action. Talk about the business side for us, please, and how did you decide that you were going to have your own, entertainment company, and now Flo Brands LLC, and then moving. I mean, it's just so much that I want to capture. When was it that you said, I can do this, I can become this true entrepreneur?
Probably was about 6 years old, and kids were pencil fighting, and my mom would take me to People's Drugstore, and I'd buy a pack of pencils with the football names on them, and then I'd take them and sell them. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do this, because then I could go. I got the cookie. I was able to get fruit punch. If I wanted an extra milk, I could do that. If I wanted 2 slices of pizza. And, my parents were like, hey, then I saw my dad. I was working in his restaurant, or his restaurants, from the time I was 8 ringing a cash register. Then, you know, when I was 11 or 12, I had MJ's lawn care service. And then when I was high school, I started washing cars. And I worked at the Gap and Heckinger's. I worked on an oil truck, doing heat oil out in Potomac. And, you know, people are like, oh my God, this is so amazing about people who have big houses and are successful. And I'm like, the amazing part of it is that they let you know that it's possible. I'm not resting on, oh, this is amazing. I'm glad you have yours. I may not want this exact thing, but you let me know that your heart beats like mine, lungs breathe like mine, eyes see like mine. Your brain may work a little differently than mine, but mine works pretty well. You let me know what's possible if I go out there and do certain things.
Fantastic.
So I mean, where I've gone in music, where I've gone in business is really out of necessity. I can't do it any other way. I could work for somebody else. I've tried it. I think that I could work with or for a company that had a leader and not a boss. But there are very few companies out here that have that, because I've been doing my own thing for a long enough time where I'm not going to hold back. And thank God I don't have to. I'm going to let you know. I worked radio for about a year and a half, had a morning show on one of the stations here. And that was a big problem with them. Like, well, no, this is how we do it. Not that's stupid. I think you might want to reconsider this. Like, why would you forget about, you know, Prince George's County and the fact that it's the largest county and the fact that there's a good group of consumers that you could work with? Well, we have our Thursday thing over here. Well, you have a staff of how many? Why can't you have 2? Oh, well, you know, we need to focus. Do you really need to focus? These people go home this way. These people go home this way. You know, and I know that DC, a river runs through it. Absolutely. So if you are on one side of the river, you aren't going to the other side. And if these imaginary lines, they're really real. The Beltway is a barrier to physical things. North, south, east, west are barriers to physical things. And that's why people are like, well, how can you gig 4 times in a week? Because people that live in Northwest won't go to Northeast. They're not going to do it. And the people that live in Northern Virginia, DC folk, are not coming into Northern Virginia. And Montgomery folk, once they get outside the Beltway, they're not coming back in. They hate it. So you can play one here, the same thing in Prince George's County. So you can play outside the Beltway in Prince George's one day, go down to DC the next, go into Virginia the next, and then start doing your national and international gigs. Still make money, but you got to think that way. So.
Well, thinking outside the box, thinking creatively always, taking time to strategize. Being in the business, like you said, you know, practicing is one thing, strategizing and learning and growing, research and development is another, like carving it all out. Tell me what FLOW means. What is FLOW?
FLOW is an acronym that means for the love of. And it started as a brand. We had a CD that we put out called For Lovers Only. And I was sitting at my desk and watching checks go from one level to another level to another level. I was like right there at the disruption point of the music industry with a $1 million studio in Silver Spring and, you know, millions of dollars invested in artists that were, I'll say it's almost like babysitting. I would never do another label ever. You just recognize that, okay, For the Lovers Only is not a scalable product. It's more urban contemporary. And I had to sit down and, you know, come to grips with I needed to come up with something different for FLOW because I knew FLO would work. We didn't have the logo or anything else like that. And I was sitting at my desk and I was like, for love, for the love of. And people are like, well, where's the T? It's right there. Where? It's right there. You know, let me know when you find it if you really need to find it. You know what I mean? There because I say it's there. And again, not from an arrogance perspective, but just like it's the creatives. You get it. And most people are like, I understand what you're.
It has to be literal. I have to see that the
yeah.
T has to be.
Well, many people are like that, you know. But the ones that get it, everybody's like, that's hot, you know. And so, For the Love of ... or FLOW ... is also out of kind of this idea that my mom always says. She's like, Marcus, you're a social worker. You like giving. And she thinks I give way too much of my time to people who don't really necessarily deserve it. As a mother would, I battle with that a lot. I try to help all that I can. but also I recognize that the majority of the people who support me are 25 and above. And at 25 to 27, a funny thing happens. Things stop being hot, H-O-T-T, and they start becoming functional.
Right.
And so I was like, for the love of, what could I do with this? Because I didn't do wine. That wasn't there yet. So we came up with this series of CDs that were lifestyle CDs. That Flo Standards, Flo Chill, Flo Romance.
Very cool.
And for the love of standards, for the love of chill, for the love of romance. Put them out, all three came in the top 15 of Billboard the same week.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thanks. I mean, but again, yet again, a different kind of strategy, you know, something that's a little different than most. And we did an exclusive deal at the time with Circuit City. They were still around in 2007. But then I still saw the decline. And, you know, to go from seeing a 6-figure check come in a month to a 5-figure check coming in every month to a 4-figure check coming in every month within the span of less than a year and a half.
Wow.
And that's what Sean Parker and the MP3.com guys and Napster, that's what they, you know, that's what happened. I was like, well, what do I have? Who are my fans? Primarily women. What do women like? Well, they like an experience, they like wine. So at first I tried to put money together to get a Flo Lounge open. That just didn't work out. Everybody, you know, it's amazing with the JD MBA from Georgetown, how many people want to explain to you how much you don't know, but they'll put money behind a chef that has nothing to, you know, no business experience at all, but they know food. It's like, we can find a mixture. I can find a chef. I can find a general manager that can help me. Let's work this thing out. Didn't work. And I was able to get into wine with basically a private label brand, working with a Virginia winery, Tarara, who graciously, a great place in Northern. I mean, I love their facilities. We did our first Flow Fest there, right on the lake. Yeah, and the family there is awesome as well. And so they had what are called shiners. So it was easy for me to put my label on a shiner that didn't have any labeling and put it out. And we were able to, we had our first meeting in 2010, February, and by May 1st, we were in North Carolina, the Wine and Food Festival with our wine, putting our stuff out. Now, through economies of scale and things of that nature, we were able to get, well, we weren't able to get these other deals for people who wanted them because we couldn't get them a price point that we needed. We contacted a couple of different people and were able to move our production to Northern California. Okay. And now Flo is actually produced in Napa at the Ranch Winery, which is a great concept purchased and run by, or operated by a guy named Joel Gott, who is a Napa legend. You have Joel Gott Wines, you have Taylor's, Roadside Grill up and down 29 in Napa in St. Helena. Just with what he's done in the wine business, he's a creative thinker, you know, limitless possibilities. And I want to say limitless possibilities because outside of the box thinking is not the goal. The goal is limitless possibilities because the answer could be right in your hands. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people overlook the answer in your hand to look too far. So I always correct that. But we moved to the ranch, and you know, in the last year with our production partner out of Novato, California. We have our storage facility in Sonoma, and all the, you know, hot names in wine. You know, we were able to get the designation by USA Today a couple of weeks ago as one of the top 10 celebrity wine brands in America. Amazing. So,
well, I want to make sure that we bring it up here so people can take a look and know what that brand is that are watching. Yes. There we go. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So that everyone can check out and
so
see the label.
We have our red, well, one is missing, our Chardonnay is missing, but we have a 100% Chardonnay in Northern California. Then we have our red blend that is a Zinfandel Merlot Cabernet Sauvignon blend. And then by popular demand, I mean, some of the wine snobs throw their nose up, but everywhere we went, everybody was asking for something sweeter, so we created a Moscato. Okay. But the unique thing about our Moscato is the fact that it is it's created in such a way that we fermented out a lot of the sugar, which actually raised the alcohol content. So it's sweet, yet not too sweet.
Right.
And yet it will knock you out after the second glass, just in case you're thinking about that.
I'm glad you told me. I'm a sweeter wine girl, but I need to make sure I pace myself when I'm drinking
Trust
that.
me, I was drinking with somebody. I was at a club last night after a gig, and somebody was like, she's like, oh my God. I'm like, I think I'm sweating. I was like, yeah, that's high octane right there. But you wouldn't know it. I'll let you know.
I'm so glad you told me.
No doubt about that.
Because post-show could be very dangerous if you didn't tell me that.
Hey, that's all right. It's yes. Watch out for that one. Now the red is I mean, the red wines are 13.5 by volume anyway. The Moscato is 11.5, but most Moscatos are 6. Right. So it's
Absolutely.
like, again, it's double the content. But the red we call trouble because it is smooth. We designed these where you have Mondavi, you have Kendall Jackson, you have the Opus, you have the Camus, you have all those kinds of or varietals and brands of wine, and they can be full-bodied. That's great. My consumer is not $100, $150 bottle, $200, $300, $400 bottle, shopper. And then you have the stuff that's really, really cheap. Where we decided was to make something that has our own, just like, we're just cool. What's going on here? Yo, look, you trying to chill? If you're trying to flow, get your glass of Flo. After work, get your Flo on. Something that people say is that, basically our red is ready to pop and rock, where you can get it, pop the cork, and, as you get home, or when you get home, excuse me, safely after driving without drinking.
As you get home.
When you get home, it's one of those things you can have some fun with.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh,
I know
definitely.
we have a lot of wine lovers out there, especially in this area.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing that they can have access to it. And watching that, just, being able to take the entrepreneurial mindset and being able to flow and knowing your consumers. I think that's a really good point, though, because we have a lot of creators, we have a lot of artists, and artists can be on all kinds of levels. It's not just one genre of an artist, right? But to be able to constantly evolve, constantly maneuver, constantly rethink, reshape, reform what is already good, and to constantly be better. I think that is the success of any true entrepreneur, is coming from the fact that you're completely able to maneuver through change. Would you agree?
Almost definitely. I teach on a paradigm that's called DEPEL, Dream, Plan, Execute, Listen, and Learn. And
say that slower?
Dream, plan, execute, listen, and learn. Okay. And the acronym is DEPEL. D-P-E-L-L. D-P-E-L-L. And so we talked about the dreaming, we talked about the planning. Once you get to the execution point, you're doing it. What a lot of people don't do is reflect. And reflection is not just like, okay, look, let's pop the Flo. We're on the store shelves. Reflection is, okay, well, how did it go? How did sales go this week? Making sure that you talk to and stay engaged with the reps that are across 13 states. Are you talking to Albertsons constantly in Southern California, in Nevada, along with Total Wine and More? What are you doing? Do you know the people at Cub? Have you reached out to them? What's going on with Jewel Osco in Chicago? Are there any new accounts? The Schaumburg store that we deal with, that I can't think of the name right now, but I know because I went there when we tasted them on the wine. Have we reached out to them lately? And that's from New York, finding out we're in the National, which is a big-time restaurant in Manhattan, to some of the higher-end restaurants in Long Island. But then using a smaller distributor there, because you don't want to use Southern Wine and Spirits and pull that trigger right now because you're not ready. You can't service those accounts. And then to get with a big distributor there, do I take an offer and entertain an offer from a larger company that can help? Getting a call saying, hey, look, we might be checking you out right now, which means they're checking us out right now. Is our stuff together? What about Maryland and Virginia, working with Montgomery County? Maryland's a control state. How do you deal with that? How do you make sure that you're in the stores, yet you don't offend the non-Montgomery County stores who would then have to buy your wine at a different price? How do you allow them to do what they do? Then again, North Carolina's a control state too. We don't even have distribution there. It's one of the places I play all the time. So then you have Virginia split into 2 regions, North and South. Virginia imports our best #1 market here, where we're in Whole Foods, Harris Teeter, Walmart, Sam's Club, Total Wine and More, all these big places, right? Excuse me if I forgot you. But then going in Southern in Virginia, where you have the big stay is, or the big play is Hampton Roads, really, and how do I put together a deal with Urban League so that we can do something that raises the awareness so that we get sales in Total Wine and More and Farm Fresh. These are things that are constantly changing. How then I just had to reach out to the COO of our distributor at the main office, because challenge is our sales in Florida are low. So if our sales in Florida are low because we don't have enough people to reach out to them and they're considering dropping us, what do? You pick up your pen and you email the president of the distributor, because you have that relationship, and you say, look, can you give me a reprieve because I just left Bentonville? I met with Sam's Club. They want to launch us in Jacksonville. I'm headlining the Jacksonville Jazz Fest. If it sounds confusing, imagine going to sleep with that. That's just wine.
Wow.
And that's every single day. That's not even that was 3 minutes or 2 minutes of what I do. Yeah. That's constantly going in my head every day about how do you change. It changes every day. Every day. Some days somebody's mad at you, the next day they're not. One day they're cussing you out, the next day you're cussing them out. The next day it's a love fest, let's go play golf, hang out, do these kind of things. Then you have your supporters, and this is where it really, in business, this is the key. Staying true to the people on the other side of the stage. Everything else really is secondary to them. You have to take care of your secondary, clients, your distributors, whether it's music or wine, your promoters, whether it's music or wine, the venues, whether it's retail or a concert venue. You have to take care of them. But at the end of the day, the person that you are most beholden to is taking care of that person on the other side of the bottle, on the other side of the counter, on the other side of the stage. And that is a key thing for most entrepreneurs to understand, because if you do that, they'll get you through.
Fantastic. Great words of wisdom. Great experience too, right? That's where it comes from. So we talk about change, and we talk about evolution, and we talk about what's next. What are some of the great things that are upcoming for you? Because I know as you move as fast as you do, share with us a lot of the new projects that's going to be launching soon or have already launched.
Well, in June we're launching my new CD and DVD. It's called Live and Direct, and it's with my group called the Urban Jam Band. And that's horn section and the big, rhythm section, and more like a soul live or lettuce kind of vibe than the old school, really Marcus cool. Johnson. Because, the one thing I hate is the designation of being smooth jazz. I am not smooth jazz. The smooth jazz stations would not play my stuff, the majority of them, because our stuff is on the edge of something else. And so you couldn't put it in a genre, and because it wasn't straight ahead, well, let's go ahead and call it smooth jazz. Right. It's not. So now we're, getting more aligned with what we do, which is call a brother on drums, one on bass, and then go and play. You have a head, and then after you play the melody, the tune turns into something else. So sometimes we're making up horn licks on the fly. Sometimes we're making up melodies on the fly to start a groove, and that turns into the music.
Really cool.
And that's what the Urban Jam Band concept is. So we have some tracks there. The direct part of it, or live, is because it's a DVD live, and we took some of the tracks and we're putting them on a CD. The other part is the direct, which are the tracks that we're recording in the studio. We have the Jacksonville Jazz Festival coming up later on this year, where I'm one of the headliners, and also Flo will be featured. And as it relates to taking care of some of your other friends, I put 2 of my buddies together that are in private equity and real estate. They started buying buildings in Jacksonville, so we're creating a pop-up Flo Lounge in the first floor of their building. So we'll have a pop-up. We're doing a tasting at the University Club of Jacksonville, and then I'm performing on that Friday, and I'm a judge at the piano competition. We also have Capital Jazz Fest coming up in June, where we'll be able to, where we're really doing the majority of the launch for the CD. We're working on the Flo Wine app so that you can go and order online, because it's one of the key components is me being in front of the stage. At Cap Jazz Fest, I'm in front of 30,000 people. So I take my wine bottles up on stage with me. Hey, you can, if you heard about it, number one, we're USA Today's top 10 celebrity wine brand. So somebody thinks our stuff is decent. If you'd like to try it, here's the app. Go to the Google store, download it. Go to the iTunes store, download it, and boom, you can have it in your place by Wednesday. And having all the supply chain stuff behind that. We're all over the United States of America. We're doing a lot more stuff in New York. We have the Southern Tier Jazz Festival up there. I'm doing the Syracuse Wine and Jazz Festival where Flo will be the exclusive wine at that particular venue. There's hundreds of cases of wine, which is that's pretty huge. And then
amazing.
Now I'm doing a lot of stuff, believe it or not, with AARP. And no, I'm not 50, and I have a long way to go before I get 50. You have associate memberships for people that are less than 50.
Yes.
So I'm engaging the 30 to 40-year-olds. And what we're doing is I have a big interview in the next couple of weeks with Soledad O'Brien and the writer of the movie Captain Phillips. And we're talking about life pre and at 50 and being an entrepreneurial creative as well as just a creative. I'm very excited about that because I've been speaking more and more and more. And I love just telling the story of hope. Because the other thing you have to have in this, and we talked about this kind of off camera, is a certain thing called faith. And whether it's faith in yourself, whether it's an idea of mindfulness that is the foundation of religions like, or followings like Buddhism or Hinduism, whether it's the Quran and Islam, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Judaism, there has to be some kind of faith. You have to know that at some level, no matter who you think your savior is, and it's just, you have to know that there's something that gets you up every morning. Because if you don't, that's when things start unraveling pretty fast. I thank God all the time when things are good. And I ask for guidance when things are beyond my control, but I also thank God when things are out of my control, because it's an understanding that I'm just a piece of a puzzle here. And although I like all my stuff to go as I would like it to go when I'd like it to go, because it's Marcus's world, I happen to know that it's not Marcus's world. So, it's one of the things that gets you through, and it's your soul speaking. I mean, your life is, when you wake up in the morning, it's really about, it's not about who you're next to. It's not about anything that's out there outside of these walls. It's really about you and your higher power. And if you don't answer to that, then you're absolutely lost. And I would say that you're doomed. And I see a lot of people out here who are doomed. And it is acceptance of your strengths, acceptance of your weaknesses, acceptance of threats and opportunities. And acceptance doesn't mean complacency with. It just means, okay, this is the way it is now. Now what am I going to do to get out of it? Yeah. I doubt if, they're going to be raised, or one day maybe somebody may come out the sky, whatever. But the way I see it is that you get the miracle every day when you wake up. If you just work the rest of the 3 hours and 59 minutes and, 59 seconds, if you just work the rest of that to this, you'll be okay. You'll be happy.
Yes, yes, and yes. Totally in flow with what you're saying. I couldn't have said it better. And you just totally set me up for my last question, which is, what are your greatest loves in life?
Well, one pops into my mind immediately, which would be my daughter. I mean, like right now, even though I'm having to discipline her a little bit more because she is everywhere. She went to the doctor's office today and took everything down, and I made her clean everything up because she was not going to leave that place messy. And she cried, and I said, you can cry all you want to, but you will put 7 back in the 7 spot. Where does the fish go? Put it with the brown fish. So I use it as a learning experience, but I want her to know that, you don't just go somewhere and do these things. So I'm dad. I love putting her to sleep. You know, I love the fact that I think that I am the only one that can put her to sleep without her crying. And today, after the doctor's appointment, I was like, it's nap time. She said, nap time. And I opened the door and I laid her in and she put her head down and she looked up at me. I said, I love you. And she just smiled and closed her eyes and was out, you know what I mean? And so she's such a great kid. So looking forward to seeing, you know, how she develops. And again, all you can do there is your best too, because, you know, they're individuals and they're led by God the same way that we are. So my mom's like, and I'm starting to see, oh my gosh, she's just like me. Uh-oh. So that's one thing. Family definitely is extremely important to me. Friends. I love the idea of getting better every day. And I think there's infinite wisdom in our forefathers' idea of a more perfect scenario. And it's beyond country. But the idea that I can get better every day, and it gives me to the essence that I love life a whole bunch. And with its good parts and its bad parts, with not having money some days and having a lot of money the next, with, you know, irate board members and, you know, board members that love you, with fans that don't like your wine and people that love the stuff. It's just a love of the actual process of getting up every day and being in control as much of it as I can. I love that. I love that a lot. I mean, you know, goes without saying, mom, dad, all my family, things like that.
Any words of wisdom for those that are watching that are already completely inspired by you? I'm sure, because I'm sitting here going, I wish it could go on for another like 10 hours.
I mean, you know, it's the main thing is staying true to yourself. I really believe that if God can create each and every one of us, then God can talk to us in an individualized manner. And there's nobody on this planet that can get me to think any differently. That's why I can accept, again, the irate board member. I can accept the person that's like, why aren't you doing this way? You know, you're causing this type of problem. That's the way they were trained. I don't let that get in the way, but I will not let it influence me away from the things that I know I need to be doing. And I always get in trouble when I stop trusting my gut. Perfect example is on the golf course. I sit, I look, I'm on the green. I'm like, I should go that way. Somebody says, well, you should go this way. What I've learned is to kind of discern, okay, today is a day that I'm going to listen to myself because I know this course and I have in my gut that it's going this way. And then all of a sudden something happens. My friend's like, I swear I didn't see that going. And I wink inside to myself, I told you, you should have followed your gut. That's a great thing. It's in the hole. And so flowing through the adversity of change or failures is I listen to my friend. My ball goes that way. I 3-putt it instead of 2-putt it. But you know what? I'm going on to the next hole. Or if not, I'm going into the bar to have a brew with my boys. If not, I'm chilling. It's make the best of all of this stuff. So, you know, follow your guidance, your soul, your spirit, your passion, your source, that thing that gets you up. Don't let anybody get in the way of it because, as I always say, you and God are a majority. And at the end of the day, enjoy this thing called life because it's limited and it starts going faster as you get older and, you know, but it gets greater if you allow yourself to just enjoy the ups and the downs, just like a roller coaster. The big and then the this and then the that. Enjoy it, just hold on for the ride.
That's fantastic. Great, great, great words of wisdom. Thank you. That was really good. How do people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Marcus Johnson 3K, the number 3, the letter K. Also at Instagram at Marcus Johnson 3K. If you put Marcus Johnson and Flo Wine, or Marcus Johnson and wine, this comes up. It'll take you everywhere there. We have Facebook. I mean, we have all the social media stuff there. If you go to our website, you can engage me through email. But if you go through to our Facebook site, which Marcus Johnson 3K, I do answer those as well. And I get some pretty like raised eyebrows. Like, is this really Marcus? Yeah. it's part of my job. What I do is engaging the consumers, even with tens of thousands of fans out there. It's something that's very important to me. So the wine, as we mentioned, available nationwide at Total Wine and More, and some of these other, very large retailers are here, Giant and things. And we have wine tasting events going on all the time. Our Sips and Sounds events are becoming a hit, so yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, you just become my unofficial mentor. How do you manage all of this? I just have a local reach now, and it's just, how do you manage the time? How do you manage? I would love to be able to continue doing exactly what I'm doing, which is speaking to people, communicating, having the relationship, because that really is something in my core that keeps me going every day. When you've suffered, when you've had pain, when you've had sorrow, and then you also have these amazing triumphs and successes, the thing that keeps you going is your relationship with people, learning to ask for help, learning when to give all of you or some of you, or pull back and reflect, time to pause, time to just say, it's me time, all of that. All of that takes practice. It's not always pretty. Actually, most of the time it's not pretty. And just listening to you, being able to do the amount of amazing work that you do for the world, for your music, for the love of all of those things. I didn't plan that. That just came out.
It's for the love of you. I mean, that's where it came from, though. Yeah.
So thank you very much for being here with us today, being able to inspire our audience, our viewers, our followers, sharing our network, because I'm sure that you'll continue to do some amazing things that I can learn from. And I just hope that you can learn a few things from our community of people who are soaring. So thanks for being on Tea with Melly.
My pleasure. Definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and I will gladly see you next time on Tea with Melly.